to another DCS Histories mission with me, Evangelic. Today we're flying my 1941 Anglo-Iraqi conflict mission, which you can find on my DCS user files page on the DCS website. And we find ourselves in May 1941 in a couple of Spitfires based out of RAF Habbaniyah. Now, RAF Habbaniyah is a small grass airfield. We will see it later on. And a decade later, that grass airfield would become the sprawling, tarmacked Al Takadam airbase, which of course features within the new DCS Iraq map. So I thought I'd show you its origins as to where that airbase comes from. Now, I say we're in a couple of Spitfires, but in fact Spitfires never flew in this 1941 Anglo-Iraqi conflict. And the reason for that are two reasons. Firstly, it's 1941. It's the year after the Battle of Britain, and Spitfires are obviously being saved for defence of Great Britain. But the more important, I guess, reason why Spitfires were not flying over what is currently modern day Fallujah, this is what we're flying at the moment, is because RAF Habbaniyah was in fact a flying school. So this 1941 conflict is fought mostly with outdated training biplanes that had to be retrofitted, many of them, for air combat purposes. Now we're joining this mission in the second half of the conflict, by which point the RAF had sent Hawker Hurricanes out, and that's really what we are simulating. Not only had the RAF resupplied their positions, but Nazi Germany had resupplied their new Iraqi nationalist allies. And this is the context in which we find ourselves, and they are currently sending a resupply train to their Iraqi ground positions, which we've been tasked to interdict. We can see its engine. I was told to target its engine, so let's try that. I'll pump some rounds into it there, and see if it stops. It hasn't stopped. What's that? That didn't look like my wingman. That is not my wingman. So we've just been bounced by a 109. So as I say, by this point in the conflict, looks like just the one. So as I say, Nazi Germany joined the conflict by now, and in just the same way I said Spitfires didn't fly here, the 109 didn't fly here either. They equipped their Iraqi allies with the 110, the dual-engined fighter bomber. I've made fast work of this mission, thankfully. Got to watch my ammo. I've got to take out that train in a moment. So the context is Germany is resupplying Iraqi positions. Now, the build-up to this conflict, what you've got to remember, this is the days of colonial Great Britain. So up until this point, Iraq had been part of the empire, so to speak, and had been governed by a British-friendly governor. Recognising now the shifting world order, the Iraqi nationalists, who for obvious reasons didn't like the British, created an alliance with Nazi Germany and rapidly surrounded this small flying school near Lake Takadam. Surrounded by 3,000 troops or so, this small RAF base found itself having to defend itself against, ironically, a British supplied Iraqi ground and air offensive. You know, Britain had been supplying arms to the Iraqi forces. So ironically, they're flying against their very own aircraft. These, like I say, old biplanes were then retrofitted. It was Gloucester Gladiators and a few others had to be retrofitted to allow for air combat. Landed any shots there. Is the train stopping? The train has stopped. I've disabled its engine. It's going to make my life a little easier. So yeah, they had to retrofit these biplanes, and this you know, few dozen RAF officer cadets fight off this sudden, you know, siege, if you like, that they found themselves under. They fight them back. Actually, it's more or less here, which is. As I say, modern day Fallujah. By this point, Germany, though, had come to the aid of their new Iraq allies and had started to resupply them, which is what we are trying to prevent here. We're trying to prevent this resupply train reaching Iraqi positions. Oh no, I destroyed the tank. I destroyed a carriage. I thought I destroyed the train, but clearly not. Let's do another run on that. Now I say, you know, it was a few dozen flying students. This is true. It was the flying student. It was an air conflict, an aerial conflict, really. But I probably should mention the ground crews as well. So the ground crews not only have to turn around aircraft quickly in this conflict, but they also have to provide force protection. The RAF regiment wasn't founded until a year later. Actually, this was one of the reasons why RAF bases were horribly under-defended up until this point. I think Malta might have been another that found its... So it's not until 1942 that the RAF regiment is formed the year after this. This situation, and perhaps more importantly, the situation in Crete, are some of the reasons why it became very clear to the Royal Air Force that it couldn't rely on the army for ground protection. In this specific conflict, ground protection is provided by the ground crews and a handful of Iraqi allies. This, I think, is Al-Tak airfield. It is. This is Al-Takadum airfield. I got a little lost there. Navigating during World War II, I particularly like when you don't have any aids. This is the expansion to RAF Havanir, which is built the year after. So we're looking for a grass airfield just beyond this runway. So yeah, force protection during this conflict is provided by ground crews and a handful of Iraqi allies. And they, in the opening week of the conflict, you know, this is a flying school, let's remember. In the opening week of the conflict, is that my flight leader? That is my flight leader. For that was not even by design. I have somehow managed to relocate my flight leader. They start digging trenches, start manning machine gun posts. You've got to remember, these are just mechanics, right? Just mechanics, just sort of out here, part of colonial Great Britain on their deployment, and all of a sudden, they're soldiers. And if you've never read it, actually, Roald Dahl's.
Runway 27 is unserviceable. We've just been bombarded by what look like German or Italian bombers. Advise you go around.
Okay, so RAF Pioneer has just been bombarded by German bombers. Here's the grass airfield now. Looks like a friendly managed to get off the ground in time, so we are looking for contacts.
Taliban to our northeast, Angels High. Let's see what we can do with our remaining ammunition and fuel, shall we?
Okay, Angels High. Let's follow our flight that we're doing then. If you've never read it, Roald Dahl's going solo. Roald Dahl, the writer of Matilda, BFG, George's Marvellous Medicine and so on, he actually flew Spitfires in the Greek campaign during the Second World War, and he describes a very similar thing where at the beginning of the war he finds himself thrown into this conflict essentially as a civilian, and is handed a weapon and told to essentially be a soldier. Well, that's basically what happened to the ground crews here. You know, all of a sudden, in the space of 1 week, their lives completely change, and they're having to man machine gun posts, turn around, and retrofit these biplanes ready for air combat. As I say, the army was too far away. It was in Basra. There'd been significant flooding prior to this point, and they just couldn't get here in time. So this becomes a kind of almost mini Battle of Britain type scenario, where this small RAF base was completely besieged. The runway is attacked by German-built bombers, particularly in the second half of the conflict. Okay, so we've got third group in the sun, he said. I'm seeing a dot up there. I can't tell if that's a friendly or not. I don't think you can see it on YouTube. Attacking bandits out in the sun is never a nice thing to have to do. So he's told us to concentrate fire on the lead group, and basically we'll do what we can with the escorts. This looks like the wave is coming back in for a run then. So we're trying to prevent a second wave of attacks on our little flying base. So here the RAF base was shelled. These Gloucester Gladiators, Hawker Ornaxes I think they are, they strafe ground artillery positions that were quite literally yards away from the base. But you wouldn't walk there, that's how close they are. They strafe enemy runways in and around Baghdad. And then in the second half of this conflict, as I say, the Germans resupply their new Iraqi nationalist allies to include Heinkel bombers. Now, the Heinkel bomber isn't in DCS, of course, so we're going to fight Ju-88s here. But this happened. They were flown in 4 ships typically, and and there we are, there's a group up ahead. I can see them now coming out of the sun. Just keeping an eye on my altitude. It's quite high here. What's that? Up to 12,000, give or take. Oh, there's a group. There's a lead group. Totally missed them in the sun. It's a good spot. There's an escort looking at my wingman. No one else seen. My tail is clear, so we're going to start running in. These guys are not far now from base. I want to do some catch up here because I didn't see him in the sun. I didn't control my intercept very well. Dogfight's going on my tail. I look clear. So as I say, the German Heikon bombers, they flew 4 ships, a bit like this one we're approaching. And they were specifically tasked, with disabling the runway. Line this guy up. I swore I took out his engine. Oh god. My Spitfire didn't like that. So I am wholly. Just gonna dive out of here for a moment. I did keep an eye on my 6, so need to do that. They're approaching the airbase up ahead. I thought I scored some very good hits there on engines, but none of it seemed effective. So we're going to go for a second run here. If I can catch them. 2 of them are smoking. So within this mission, if you can get 2 of them to RTB, that's a mission success. Fire me again. I should have been higher than these guys. This guy is slow. He is ready to be picked off. If I can actually see through the smoke. Okay, he looks RTB. Let's try and catch these guys now. So he's off home. Just need to get 2 of these to turn back. Tail is clear. They're miles away. Although I did hit him. That's interesting. And I've run out of fuel, I think. Obviously been leaking. Have. So that is my flying done for one day. We are going to try and put it down at RAF Habinia. So let's just spiral down slowly, try and get my bearings. This is Lake Al Takadum. We will revisit the lake in a later mission. There's the airfield on my 6 now, so come right. There she is. So I got one of the bombers to RTB. As I say, mission success will trigger if you can get 2 of them. That was on my best flight today. I actually find it really hard to chat and fly in our old warbird here. My gear is down. Let's extend its flaps. Let's do our best here. They did say the runway was unserviceable, so this is going to be an interesting landing. There were RAF losses during this campaign. As I say, they wouldn't have been Spitfires. I'm going to fall short. Oh, will I? I don't know, I might be alright. I might have done this completely perfectly. Oh my god. Oh my god. Nope. That would be a no. Well guys, look, Evan checking out in this instance. Hope you enjoy the mission. There will be a part 2 to this where we'll revisit Al Takadum, this time in RAF Tornadoes, to talk about their role in Desert Storm against the very airbase that they helped formed.